Yes, Dr. Chris Lemmon, uh, retired. I, for many years, had a center in Southern California, actually for 14 years. And we did various different classes and trainings on developing human empathetic skills, being able to communicate a little better, being able to get a bigger picture, a bigger view of things. So anyway, that was the skill sets that we were developing. We had several hundred people coming and going most all the time, developing those skill sets. And I'm retired, but I have students still out there that took classes from me and students of students. So they email me questions on occasion. I like to answer those questions in this format so that so I don't have to answer them again. I can at least share the video with different people. So this is actually the third in a series. I had two others that I've done that was in intuitive comments or intuitive training. I had a few students here. And so this kind of stemmed or seeded, so to speak, the questions. I've got three questions. I'm going to try to answer them in one video here. Number one was questions about seeing. Number two was questions about symbols. And number three was questions about style. And these have all to do with the counseling techniques. And so let me see if I can make some clarity for some of you out there, or maybe confuse you even more. That's fine. So the first thing about seeing, if we get the idea that when we think of seeing something, that we're taking a picture with a camera. We actually look at something and we say, I remember that waterfall. We're really thinking that we have somewhere a picture in our head. And that's really a misnomer. That's not the way the human brain works, according to science. And from what I've seen on this planet, I think that's absolutely correct. Is that we have an event that we show up. An event is a time, beginning to end. So it's a piece of time. And we show up in that piece of time and we have an experience. That experience is us being in that period of time. The data that comes in from that experience comes in through your five senses. Yes, it's smell, it's taste, it's what you feel at the time, the sensations that you have in your body, as well as the visual context you have and the hearing context, right? Just as what you're doing right now, listening to this video. All those are combined in this package in time to produce an event. We take those events, or within that event, we take all those things that occur within that event. We throw all the details together and we package it all up in a story. That's our ability to be conscious of it, our ability to be conscious of an event that occurred. We package in the story and then we set that aside and we secure it. So we can say we put it into our data files. And that's all fine and good. If, for whatever reason, the story doesn't fit the event, there's details hanging out the side, the story didn't quite fit the event, then the event doesn't get secured. It actually repeats in some variation or some different form. And so now you have a problem, right? Because it seems like these things keep repeating in life. And they repeat in life because you weren't able to secure them. So you weren't able to package that whole thing up. That's the basic oversimplified version of what goes on, right? So you go see a counselor, you have a problem, all right? And that's exactly where the people arrive in the front door, all right? So when we talk about eye seeing, the eye seeing is not a picture. So when a counselor says, I see, what they mean is this way. You ever look at a map or a plan or a diagram or something, or read a concept in a book and you're talking to a friend and you don't get it, right? And you have a dialogue and all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I see what it's all about. The I see is the epiphany I see, not the picture I see, the epiphany I see. I see means I get it. So if you're a counselor and you're sitting there and someone says, this is my problem. And I said, define your problem. And they're telling me their problem. What I see is that in this moment of telling me their problem, they literally become that event. They really just become that. They just simply come back. All those things that were occurred in that event now are occurring in their body as they're telling me their problem. So I am now a witness to the event. wasn't there in time, but most certainly now I'm a witness to the reenactment. The reenactment is absolutely with all the details in it. Everything is in the package, but not everything is fitted into the story. Now, the reason for that is really very simple. First law of thermodynamic conservation. So we sit there, we have an event, and instead of attending to it and putting all the details together, we automatically, we don't think about it, it's automatic. We go through our intuitive database, our files, and we go, oh, this event is like that event. So we move that story that we created in the past, and we impose it onto this event. Now, if all the details are closely the same, then we have similar story. It's not the same story. Your lesson will, most certainly what you gain from it will be partially lost. That's sad. But nonetheless, if it packages all, we can secure it, put it aside, and we're done with it. If it doesn't quite packages and there's pieces falling off of the side, we have the problem. Right? And that's exactly what we have usually in the case when people come in. I have a problem. And this happened, blah, blah, blah. And they go on with the story. So I'm sitting there and all reveals. If I go through my intuitive database, which automatically I'm going to when I get exposed to this, I could then tell them a different story. But you see, that's doesn't really solve the problem, right? Their problem is they need to attend to all the details and generate a conscious story about it so they can secure that, because there's either something to be learned or some relationship in there or something developing from, it's a clue in there. So if I sit there and I just give them advice, then that's the nature of a very poor counselor. It's just giving advice about something that was not my event to start out with, but it's similar to some event that I know about, not what we're trying to do. So that's the no, right, Bart? You sit there and you notice all the details. What you try to do as a counselor is you try to expand the circle so that their story is too small, it doesn't cover it all. Right? These are all metaphoric, right? So you expand the circle. I call that the range, but you could call it the circle if you like. I want to expand it out so that it's big enough to cover all the details. That person in front of you may not be in the habit of having the range that wide. So that's just the nature of being defended. We don't want to entertain anything that we don't want to see, right? We most certainly filter an awful lot of life out. That's just a human phenomenon, right? So I'm seeing this all. It's being exposed to me. It's being revealed to me. I then expand the range. I get a little bit of questions I've got going on. And if the person in front of me all of a sudden gets it, they go, oh, I see. I thought it was this way. I forgot about that. Yes, it's this. And they come up with a better story. They can secure the whole thing. They're a happy camper. They write me a check and they go home, and the world no longer repeats over and over and over again forever. They got it secured. It's out of the way. Best case scenario. And that's what I see means. To train people, I have them sitting with me so that they start to get a sense of what this is. You sit there for a while. You don't have to learn anything. This is a natural piece of just being empathy. I'm just encouraging to please attend to the person in front of you. And when you attend to the person who's exposing their issue, their misfit, all the data will flow in. Just sit there with it and let it all reveal itself. That's all you really have to do. And then you can say, I see. You don't looking for a picture. You're looking for an understanding. And it's much, much bigger than just put into a short context, right? Really, you need to sit with it and let it expose itself. That's it. So I see is not looking for a picture. It's understanding it. It's an empathetic piece. I get what you just went through. Amazing. Yes. Okay. And then you have a conversation about it, and you try to build all the variables into the range so that person then has an epiphany. They create a brand new story, hopefully, or a better stored story. whatever. But a brand new story would be much better. If you can schedule it for a half hour, 45 minutes, that's probably longer than the event was. It allows them to attend to all the details, and they actually will fabricate a better story. That's the goal, right? Always the goal, all right? So let's talk about symbols. I told you that data that you get in an event that occurs comes into all five senses. It comes into a data flow. It is never a picture, it's never recording, it's never separate tracks. It's just one package. The event is one package, that moment of time. It's all stored in the symbols. We have developed language. Linguistics is assigning a meaning to a symbol. So let's say I have a symbol called a pink elephant. And I see an elephant that's pink. And so I put a linguistic title on it, pink elephant. Now, the truth is that there could be a lot of different shades of elephant and a lot of different shades of pink, right? So it's a classification. The linguistics a classification for a set of symbols. The world we live in is all symbols. Language is so that we can talk about the symbols we see or the similarity in it, right? So all this data is stored in your brain in all these symbols. I'm looking at that person and I all of a sudden notice something that don't match with mine. I don't attend to my symbols. I attend to the outpicturing, what the linguistic structure is, how it materialized and how, but I'm looking at them and I see a pink elephant and I'm going, wow, I got a few pink elephants, but I don't have one like that one. So I'll turn around and ask the person, not what is that symbol, because I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'll say, does a pink elephant mean anything to you? Now, this never ceases to amaze me. About half the time, the person will look right at me and say, yeah, and they got a story that goes along with the pink elephant. So it helps me expand that range out because now I need to include that fragment or that story into the whole context, right? The other half the time they go, no, I don't mean anything to me. And he, what is that? And I said, not a big thing. I just noticed this. I saw a symbol of a pink elephant I thought might mean something to you. And they go on rambling about something. And then pretty soon they'll come back because it takes a little while to percolate. And they'll come back and they say, hey, my Uncle Mark, he used to have a red glass rhinoceros on his desk. Okay, a red glass, that's close enough to pink elephant. Okay, well, it's cool. Tell me something about your Uncle Mark. Well, all of a sudden, here's the missing piece. This is that little fragment that he couldn't get in the story because it wasn't a big enough story. It's some experience that an enlightened piece that he got. Enlightened means that I see again, right? More light came into it. It means that all of a sudden, the experience he had from Mark was a piece that was shared from his uncle, that was shared, and now it's relevant to this scenario. It might be the missing piece. It might be why the story wasn't big enough. He needed to add fragments to it. He needed to expand it. He needed to make a new story, really. And so that's exactly what he's looking for, what pieces in his world, not your world. You're the counselor. You're just directing them to it. You're not filling in the blanks for them. That would be even worse than with a bad story. Now they have your story, right? Horrible. So symbols are something, if you see something that doesn't fit into your category, it's an oddity. It shows up. You get a sense or a feeling of it, and you frame it into whatever terms you frame it into. I've seen it like a breeze or a bird or a certain smell. Lots of times, certain smells, a certain taste. I will say to someone, it's such a metallic taste when you tell this story. Does that mean anything to you? And it's just, once again, it's amazing that these things mean something because that's getting into their internal structure, the way they've stored things. It's not identical for all humans. We can categorize it, but it's not identical. Not carbon copy. We're not cookie cutters. We're all beautifully different. So that's the component. You're trying to help them develop a better story. That's it. Okay. So A picture is not going to be a photograph. And they'll get people that go, oh, I see right away. And they think, oh, they got the photograph and I didn't. No. It just meant that their empathetic skills were a little keyed up. They were easier for them to put their bias away and fully relate to that person. That's a challenging little piece, right? Because relating that person means you want a taste of what's going on. You don't want to try to impose you on them. And the other end of that is you don't want to become them. So the downside of playing that out is that you can become a devotee. You can fully become them. And that doesn't serve you as a counselor. So you have to play with it somewhere. You're usually either pretty well guarded and not becoming the other, which is why we have a veil, right? So I'm not becoming you. But some people align to an other very quickly. And so, they fall in love, they get possessed by, they do all of the above. And so it's kind of a crazy world. So in that skill set, the reason why it requires some training is it's really easy for us to just try to impose our story onto their event. Or for some of us, it's easy for just to become the person, maybe become totally sympathetic. And then you're running around repeating their life experience. And now it becomes your life experience. You don't want to do either one of those, really. You really just need to sit with it and let it expose itself, let it reveal itself, let the range open up, and let that person come to their own epiphany. They will be patient with it. It unfolds. Now, how you make that happen or how you aid the process has to do with style. I have a style I developed. I tell everybody that I train, you're going to be sitting next to me to see what I'm doing. I have my own style. You will develop your own style. You will not do my style. I'll guarantee you. You'll develop your own style. Everybody has their own little twists. Some are similar, but it's different for each. So you're going to see that happen. You would think that cognitively, me being able to say that multitude of times would have them be cognizant of that. And when it occurs, they'd say, great, finally my style is materializing. I'm delighted. But it usually doesn't play out that way. I get a multitude of scenarios. Number one, I get people that all of a sudden when they start to act differently than the way I'm performing, they want to almost apologize for it. They'll come to me and they'll say, I'm having a problem. I can't do what you're doing anymore. I'm doing something wrong. No, you're not doing something wrong. You're developing your own style. So just let it develop. It's okay. You're going to see it differently. You're going to be differently. We're not going to we might have agreement on the out picturing of it, but the rationale is going to be totally different. Style will become different. Those are easy to deal with. Then I get the other people that say, I've been sitting with you now for a couple of months and, you're doing it all wrong. And this is what you should be doing. Okay. So they've found their own style and they labeled it right, labeled me wrong. That's a polarity charge. You need a counselor. Wrong story, right? So, and I've seen that. I've actually seen many times people get mad. And they get mad. It's like, you've hid this from me. Now I see, and before you were disguising it. You weren't letting me see. You were holding me back. Oh my goodness gracious. It's just amazing. So I'm going to tell you that, number one, seeing is not a picture. Seeing is an epiphany. I get it. I see. Oh, I see the light. That's it. That's what it means. So you might talk about it as I see. It means you have an understanding. You have a bigger range. You try to share the details with the person, rekindle what they tried to push out of the event to make their story fit. Human dilemma, most certainly, and what counselors are meant to be, right? That. Number two, symbols show up because linguistically, it means a class of things, not a specific. So when something that doesn't quite, in your context, fit that class of that linguistics tied to a symbol, ask about what you're seeing. Say, I'm a little confused on this point. And this, the picture I get, the symbol I get, whatever, you throw that out, or the information I get, however you want to frame it, that style, right? You toss it out and you have the person explain it, give them more information. Maybe there's a piece that they tried to get out of the story and they're hiding from themselves. So they think that now the story will work if I ignore this part of the detail. Very normal. Or so they try to hide it. So they try not to reveal it. You know it's there. You can feel it. But you just can't get them to turn the light on, right? So you can see that that's a very normal piece. So there are symbols that show up. However you want to interpret the symbols, pieces of data, something forgotten, something left out, some detail overlooked. So that's exactly what we're looking at. And that third thing is style just means that's just it. It's an empathetic piece. How do I relate to you? When somebody runs over your poodle with their car, do you feel exactly the same way about it that I do? Right? Am I sad that someone ran over your poor little dog? Oh, yeah, I'm sad. I'd probably be even more sad if I was the one that ran over your dog. But nonetheless, I'm sad, but it wasn't my dog. It's a total different. You see, empathetic piece doesn't have the same charge of energy. Forget the word emotion. That's just something we attach to things. It's not real. Like color's not real. All these books are different colors, but they're really just different light reflected frequencies. So color doesn't exist in the world. So all those emotional things that we have, there are feelings, and there's most certainly energy. So the titles are a little vague. So don't get too stuck on that and start to realize it's like, oh, I'm just reporting on something that it's a unique experience for me. If I talk about my unique experience, you talk about your unique experience, we can come to a shared terrain. We can connect as humans. That connection will enrich your experience, enrich your range, and enrich my experience. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to enrich the experience in life. My little window of it is not sufficient. If I interact with you, it expands. And that expansion shows me more possibilities for me, and it shows more possibilities for you. That's what we're trying to do, folks. It's really just that simple. And so if you're counseling now and you're having fun with it, go for it. Enjoy it. The goal is for you to be able to become enriched from the experience. And so look for that enrichment. Enjoy the trip. Have fun. It's been great talking to you. So keep the questions coming, and every now and then I'll throw one of these out, and we'll put it out there in the public market so that you can share it with your friends and your students. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.